everyone, acrezHD, bringing you another tutorial. This tutorial we're going to be looking at Mograph Text Objects and Random Effector in Cinema 4D. Here's an example. So let's head on into Cinema and see what we can do. So first off, we're going to create a Mograph Text Object. And name it acres. You can name it whatever you want. Font, I'll use the same font as I used in the example. I think it's this one. Yep. And then what I'm going to do is we'll increase the depth to about 100. And then what we're going to do is can also, if you go on caps, fillet cap, same again, fillet cap. And this gives us, if we zoom in a bit closer, gives us a nice beveled edge, if you can see that. So we got some nice bevel edged, and you can change these. You can have one step. That looks pretty cool. That, I think that's the one I used in the example. 2 step. I'm not sure. I think we'll just go for 1 step now. And we'll just rename this to acres. And then what you want to make sure that all your spelling's correct, because after this you can't go back. We're going to hit C on the keyboard to make it an editable object. And then if we drop these down, we can see we've got the individual letters. We can move them about. And if we just select these letters, select the top one, hold shift, and that selects them all. And then it's going to drag these outside because we don't need this group anymore. So now we've just got our Mograph letters. And then what we're going to do is go up to Mograph, Attractor object. Just going to put these into the Attractor object, and then if you select the Attractor object, hold shift again, and then that selects them all. And with them all selected, you want to go to Mograph, Random Effector, and you can see now that that kind of randomizes the letters a bit. And if you go click on the Random Effector, click on Parameter, this is where you can start to really have some fun with it. Start to play around with the shapes, how you want it to look, how you want it to morph around, and you can do it on the Z-axis. Yeah. And then if you check scale, uniform scale, you can make them bigger or smaller, but I'm not going to use that, but you can use that if you want. Just have a play around with it. Rotation, this is what I want, and you can start to rotate the letters a little bit. Yeah, maybe that. So that's looking alright. And then the strength under Effector, that's what makes it move, and so that's at 0 strength and that's at 100 strength. and if you go back into parameter, you can make these, you can move these about. So you can see now we've got all these letters randomised, and it comes back. And we're going to keyframe this now to make the letters morph into shape. So what we're going to do is, with the timeline at 0, if you select strength and then hold down the control key and click the circle, you're going to get a red button, and the red button means that you've made a keyframe. And if we move to the end of the timeline, set this to 0, we've now got a yellow circle, and the yellow circle means it's waiting for us to make another keyframe. So if we hit control again, hit the circle, it turns red, means we've made a keyframe. So hopefully now, if we press play, should see that's looking pretty good. And what we can also do to give it a little bit more movement is, if we click on the fracture object, if we right click and then go to Cinema 4D tags, right down at the bottom, vibrate, if we click vibrate, enable position, and what this does is gives it a little bit more. Maybe we don't need it that much. You can turn the frequency down. And that just adds a nice extra bit of movement. And you can also keyframe the frequency, you can, like we did. So if you move to about 60 frames on the timeline, select frequency, hold down control, hit the circle, we've made a keyframe. Move to the end, we'll set this to 0. It's gone yellow, it's waiting for a keyframe. Hold control, click it again, and we've made another keyframe. And that basically just drops the frequency down, so it's not vibrating at the end. It's only vibrating when the text objects are coming together. Maybe we can do with making the timeline a little bit bigger. We'll go, it's 200. Move this up so we can see the top. Oh. Maybe 125. Yeah, that's cool. So we got this nice effect. And then what we're going to do, file, new material. What colour shall we do? We'll make it maybe a red. We'll make it a bit red. Can add a bit of reflection if you want. If you click on texture and then go down to Fresnel. Fresnel makes the reflections look a bit more lifelike. And if we drop the brightness down, because naturally things aren't really reflective, you can also add a bit of blurriness as well. There we go. And if we just drag that onto our fracture object, our text is now nice and red. If we render that, see how it's looking. Not too bad, not too bad. What we can also do to make it look a little nicer is, if we go to File, New Material, I'm going to add a HDRI light map. And what these are, these basically light your scene. Well, they don't light your scene, but they give you studio light reflections on your textures and etc. So if we go to load image, here's a couple of examples of HDRI lights that I've already got. What I'll do is I'll upload the one that I'll use to FileFront or SendSpace or something, and you can download the one that I'm about to use if you wish. Let me just find it. Yeah. Just click no for that. Might use a different one actually. That's not. Let me. Where have you gone? There we are. So what I'll do, I'll upload this to SendSpace or FileFront, and you can download it and use it yourself. And all you have to do is click open. Just open it on a new material, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add a sky, and then if we add the HDRI light map, what you're going to see is, I don't know if you can see it, we've got these lights now down there. That's looks like a softbox light. This one looks a softbox light, pink. We've also got a white light at the back there and a softbox up above. So if we zoom in now, if we click our fracture object, click rotate, we'll rotate it 90 degrees. Right there, we'll spin round. And we should start to see some nice reflections going on. Yep. Let's rotate this so it's even, 90-degree angle. Yep. Looking good. And then what we're going to do is, if we click on this, maybe add a plane. Oh no, actually, we'll add a floor. And then if we rotate the floor 90 degrees, might need to make it a little bit bigger. Can do this by, there we go. And this is just a background so we don't see the pink light in the background. So if we render now, we should get, yeah, looking good. Got some nice reflections going on. Maybe add a few lights. Add a light by clicking this tab, and then just a light. We'll move it back. Maybe have one up here. And if you click the light, hold control and drag down, that duplicates the light. Move the other light just over here, so you can see now got a light there and a light there. There we go. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's looking nice, that is. What we're gonna do now is add a camera. and then add some keyframes to the camera. So with the camera selected, you see the black box button here. If you click that, it turns white. When it's white, that means you are looking through the camera, if you know what I mean. When it's black, you can zoom out, and the green box is obviously where the camera is facing. And if we click the black box, make it white, that's the view that the camera's looking. So what we're going to do is find a nice space to start. Maybe about there. And the little key button here, the keyframe button, at 0 frames on the timeline, hit the keyframe button, and you can see we've got all these red dots, which means we've made keyframes. Move to the end of the timeline and position the camera to where you want it to be at the end. About there. Actually, we'll do that at 100 frames. So at 100 frames, I want it to be there. Click the little key button to add another keyframe. And then we'll move to the very end of the timeline and then just move down a little bit, so we get a nice gradual movement of the camera. Hit the keyframe again. So what we've got now, hopefully, it could do with being a little longer, but just for this tutorial I don't really need to make it as long as the example. This is just to give you the basis and to let you run with it. So that looks pretty much done. But feel free to change the colours, add different texts, use different fonts. I encourage you to learn the basics off the tutorial, and then you run with it and apply whatever you feel necessary to it. So let's have a little look now. Yeah, that's really nice. Have a quick look at the render settings. General, full render, output. We want film and video, the HD 720p, 25 frames per second preset. Click that one. And instead of current frame, we want all frames, so that will render all frames in the timeline. Save. You can save it as whatever you want. We'll save this as tutorial. Save. The format, I usually go with QuickTime Mover. That's all we need on save. Multipass we don't need to worry about. Anti-aliasing. Anti-aliasing means basically the reflections and how crisp the reflections are, because if we zoom in a little bit, you can see that the reflections aren't that crisp. So if we go back into our render settings, anti-aliasing, we'll set that to best. Minimum level 1:1, maximum level 2:2. And if we have a look now, the reflections look a lot smoother, but it does increase your render time a little bit, so just be aware of that. And anything else on the render settings? Options. Nope, that looks all good. And then when you're ready to render, if you just click the orange button here, and it will start to render. Move it. It may take a while if you've got a lot of reflections and lighting, etc. So I think that's pretty much it for today. Thanks for watching the tutorial. More to come soon. Don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with all the latest videos and news and stuff. Thanks a lot. See you later.